All right, here we go. This is an example of a vertical page turn, also known as the McClung flippy page turn. This is me playing Anvil Chorus, and you will see in a couple seconds, you'll see a subtle page turn. There it comes. Whoop, there it is. Okay. So I think that has got some advantages to it. It's subtle. It doesn't take your eye off of what's happening on stage. You can do it easily with one hand, and it's organized. You're not shuffling a bunch of pages. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I used to do. This is an example of a piece of music I chunked together for Circles by Luciano Berio. And it kind of works. I use tagboard, I use tape and scissors, and I put a bunch of music on one stand, and then when it's time, you can turn it, and then you've got a ton of music on one music stand. But it's problematic. First of all, when this is opened up, this is a huge piece of music now. This is, 3 feet wide and 3 feet tall, more or less. And it means it puts a barrier between the performer and the audience. It puts a barrier between the performer and the other people playing chamber music. And plus, say you're playing with say this was being performed on xylophone. You've got a xylophone way down here, and some of your music is way up here, and it's a great physical distance between what you're looking at and the instrument you're trying to play. And that just leads to inaccuracy and leads to discomfort for the performer. So here is an example of the music, the piece of music you just saw. This is Anvil Chorus by David Lang. And it's just poster board and Xerox copies of the music. So these are the first 2 pages. It's in landscape form. I put a little tab here. You can see it's just a piece of tape, folded piece of gaff tape. Makes it a little easier. You can see the top profile of the music. Easier to just sort of grab that, and there it goes. Now I have the next 4 pages up. I read down from left to right. So these are pages 5, 6, 7, and 8. You can do, of course, whatever you want. You can do 5, 6, 7, 8, but I prefer to just kind of read down and down. And it's not super tall like that one is. It's a bit shorter. And then there's later in the piece, once we get down to here, I've got some moments of silence. I can reach up and just do that. And I just do a little bit of motion, and then gravity takes over. So I don't know if that's easy to see, but just with a little bit of effort here, I've got a stick in my hand, and I just take one finger, start it going, and it drops. So that worked out pretty successfully. I have other examples. Here's a chamber music piece called The Forest for the Trees. This was another one where it just wasn't convenient for me to make page turns. It was a marimba part. And so this is basically 3 pages wide. And these are 8.5 by 11 pieces of music. And I just chop them down the middle, my Xerox copies. And when I get down here and I've got some rests, I do that, and that's the rest of the piece. Okay, here is another example. This is Music for a Dance. This is a piece by Tom Osborne, and it's another example of 8.5 by 11, 3 pages wide. Here I made it slightly larger, and I put the top of the next page. And I actually don't have a rest here. I'll show you what happens on the next page, but what happens at the top of the next page is it was a pattern that was at the bottom of the previous page, and that pattern continues. And then I've got a moment where I can reach up. But there's just not much rest in this piece. There's not much opportunity to turn the page. So that's how I did it. And this one doesn't have a tab. I just reach for the top and let it drop. And that's the rest of the piece. Pages more or less 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So all you need, this is just a piece of tag board, and I think it was less than $1 at Target. You might need 2 pieces of tag board, depending on how many of these flippy things you need to make. And then I use Scotch tape to attach the music to the tag board or poster board. I use either duct tape or gaff tape to attach the pieces of poster board to each other. And then maybe something to mark the page, although not necessarily, or to mark the poster board. You may or may not need that, and scissors. So pretty much what you do is you start with your poster board, and you start with the backing piece. So I'm gonna pan back and just show you. In the back, it's just one large piece, and I think this is more or less a little bit wider than that. You can make it a little smaller. But that was my initial piece, like so. So that's the back. And once you have that, you just need your little, oops, that's upside down. You just need your little pieces, your flaps. This particular one has just one flap, right? And that's the whole movement of the piece. So for this chunk of music, I needed one piece of poster board that large and another piece of poster board half that size. And I just attached that with a couple of pieces of either gaff tape here or duct tape. You can see it a little bit better in Anvil Chorus, but it's just, I used 3 pieces. I don't do like one strip attaching the flippy piece. I use boop, 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 3 little pieces and just attach that kind of half piece, the flap. One thing you want to make sure is that your flap is either smaller than the big piece, slightly smaller than your backing piece, or is attached slightly above your halfway point. And the reason you do that is when this comes down, if it's too long, you can see how if it was just a little bit longer, it wouldn't clear that, and it causes problems. It's the less stable piece of music. So you want to either make sure that it's small or that it's attached a little bit above the equator, the midpoint between top and bottom of this backing piece. But you attach as many flaps as you need to. This one's got 2 flaps, right? One, and then a second one. And you just attach them pretty much on top of each other, one at a time. 3 pieces of tape there. And I think the same here, or maybe even, might even be 2 pieces of tape. But once you get that, then you just start, you put all your flaps in this kind of up position, make sure they fall nicely, right? That all works out, but sometimes if I had made one of these too long, I would have to shave a little off the top. And then you chop up your piece of Xeroxed music accordingly, put it where you can read it, and then you turn the page, and you put your next pieces, and then you turn the page again, and you put up your last pieces. So that's pretty much it. It works well. Good luck.